The morning sun cast long shadows across Earth's capital when the sky changed forever. Admiral Lee Hyun stood on the observation deck of the Orbital Defense Station, watching his morning coffee grow cold in his hands. The view had always calmed him before. Today it filled him with dread. A massive shadow fell across the planet below. Something enormous had appeared between Earth and the sun. The shadow grew larger by the minute, blocking out more and more light. Emergency alarms began to sound throughout the station. "Admiral," Lieutenant Park called from the communications center. "We have a massive contact on our screens. It just appeared out of nowhere, sir." Lee Hyun dropped his coffee and rushed to the main display. What he saw made his blood run cold. A ship the size of a city floated above Earth. It was dark gray with sharp angles that looked like the teeth of some giant beast. Smaller ships surrounded it like wolves around their pack leader. "How big is that thing?" Lee Hyun asked. 15 kilometers long, sir. Maybe 20. Our computers can't get an exact reading. It's bigger than anything we've ever seen. Down on Earth's surface, millions of people stopped what they were doing and looked up at the sky. The alien ship was so large they could see it clearly from the ground. Fear spread through the crowds like wildfire. Ambassador Park Soo was in her office when her assistant burst through the door. "Ma'am, we're receiving a transmission from the alien vessel. They're demanding to speak with Earth's leaders immediately." Park Soo had dealt with difficult situations before, but nothing like this. She was a small woman with kind eyes, but her voice carried authority when she spoke. "Put them through to the main conference room. Alert the President and the Defense Council." Within minutes, Earth's most important leaders gathered in the emergency meeting room deep beneath the Capitol building. President Kim sat at the head of the table, his face pale but determined. General Kim Hae stood beside a wall of monitors showing Earth's defense forces. They looked tiny compared to the alien ship. The main screen flickered to life. A creature appeared that made everyone in the room step back. It had gray skin stretched tight over sharp bones. Its eyes were black and cold like deep space. When it spoke, its voice sounded like grinding metal. "I am Overlord Kethvar of the Velthon Empire. Your primitive species will listen and obey." The creature's thin lips pulled back to show rows of sharp teeth. "We have conquered 47 star systems. We have destroyed countless worlds that refused our generous offer of surrender." Ambassador Park Soo found her voice first. "What do you want from us?" The alien's laugh was like breaking glass. We want nothing from you, insects. We offer you a choice. Surrender your world completely within 72 hours or we will burn it to ash. Your ships, your armies, your cities, all will be destroyed if you resist." General Kim Hae stepped forward. "Our defense fleet won't go down without a fight. We have over 200 ships ready for battle." Overlord Kethavar's expression didn't change, but something that might have been amusement flickered in his black eyes. "Your ships? Let me show you how we deal with resistance." The transmission switched to an outside view. 3 of Earth's defense satellites were visible in the distance, their solar panels glinting in the sunlight. The alien ship's weapons fired 3 quick pulses of red light. The satellites exploded in brilliant flashes that faded to nothing. The room fell silent. Those satellites had cost billions to build and were protected by the strongest shields human technology could create. They had been destroyed like soap bubbles. 72 hours, Overlord Kethvar repeated. "Surrender completely or die completely. Those are your only options." The transmission ended. President Kim looked around the table at his advisors. "Options? We could try to evacuate the major cities," suggested Minister Choi. "Where would they go?" General Kim Hae asked. "That ship can probably destroy anything on the planet from orbit." Admiral Lee Hyun stood up slowly. "We fight. Even if we can't win, we make them pay for every inch." "With what?" President Kim asked. "You saw what they did to our satellites. Our most powerful weapons might as well be throwing rocks at them." "Then we throw rocks," Lee Hyun said firmly. "Better to die fighting than to live as slaves." The argument went on for hours. Some wanted to negotiate. Others wanted to fight. A few suggested hiding in underground bunkers until the aliens got bored and left. But everyone knew the truth. Earth was helpless against this enemy. As the debate continued, Dr. Choi Wan sat quietly in the corner. She was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She had been listening without speaking, but now she cleared her throat. "There is another option," she said quietly. The room fell silent. Everyone turned to look at her. President Kim frowned. "Dr. Choi, you're head of our Space Research Division. What option are you talking about?" Dr. Choi Wan stood up slowly. Her hand shook slightly as she opened a secure briefcase and pulled out a single sheet of paper. Project Nightfall. Classification level absolute. Authorization Omega 77. General Kim Hay's eyes went wide. That classification level? I don't even have clearance for that. Neither do I, admitted President Kim. Dr. Choi, what is Project Nightfall? The old scientist looked around the room. I need permission to brief you on classified material that could save our world or damn us all. Permission granted, President Kim said immediately. Tell us everything. Dr. Choi Wan activated a hidden projector built into her briefcase. Images filled the air above the conference table. For 30 years we have been building something in secret. Something the public doesn't know about. Something that our enemies don't know about. The images showed massive construction platforms floating in the darkness beyond Pluto. Ships unlike anything anyone in the room had seen before took shape under alien spotlights. Impossible, whispered Admiral Lee. Hyun, those resources. The cost. Where did it all come from? Every black budget project for 3 decades, Dr. Choi Wan explained. Every failed space mission. Every canceled weapons program. The money and materials went to this. More images appeared. Hundreds of sleek black ships hung in the darkness like sleeping sharks. They're beautiful, breathed Ambassador Park Soo. But why didn't you tell us? Because hope can be dangerous, Dr. Choi Wan said sadly. If our enemies learned about this fleet, they would have struck before we were ready. If our own people knew, some might have tried to use it for the wrong reasons. President Kim leaned forward. How many ships? 300. All equipped with technology 20 years ahead of anything currently in service. Stealth systems that make them invisible. Weapons that can punch through any known defense. The room buzzed with excitement and fear. Can we use them now? General Kim Hae asked. Dr. Choi Wan nodded slowly. The fleet has been ready for 5 years. We were waiting for the right moment. It appears that moment has arrived. Admiral Lee Hyun studied the images. These ships, they could change everything. Or destroy everything, Dr. Choi Wan warned. Using this fleet means revealing that humanity has been deceiving the galaxy for decades. It means showing that we're not the primitive species everyone believes us to be. Once we do this, there's no going back. President Kim stood up. How do we activate them? Dr. Choi Wan pulled out a small device that looked like a simple transmitter. A single coded message. But it has to be hidden inside what appears to be our surrender. The room fell quiet again. Ambassador Park Soo spoke first. You mean we have to pretend to give up while actually preparing to fight? It's the only way, Dr. Choi Wan confirmed. Our enemies expect us to surrender. If we do exactly what they expect, they won't be looking for tricks. Hours passed as they planned Earth's response. The message would be sent as a formal surrender, but hidden inside would be the activation code for humanity's secret fleet. It was the biggest gamble in human history. As the 72-hour deadline approached, Ambassador Park Soo prepared the transmission. Her hands were steady now, though her heart raced. She looked at the words on her screen one last time. Attention, Overlord Kethvar of the Velton Empire. Earth's government accepts your terms. We surrender unconditionally and await your instructions for our complete capitulation. Hidden in the message, invisible to alien eyes, was a simple sequence of numbers. Those numbers would wake up 300 ships that had been sleeping in the darkness for years. Ambassador Park Soo pressed the send button. The message flew through space toward the alien ship. Earth's surrender was complete, but something else was flying through space too. The activation signal raced outward toward the edge of the solar system, toward the ships that waited in the cold and dark. Overlord Kethvar received Earth's surrender with satisfaction. These humans had been wise to give up without a fight. Soon his empire would have another conquered world to add to their collection. He had no idea that Earth's surrender was actually a declaration of war. Far beyond Pluto, where the sun was just another star in the darkness, something stirred. Captain Nam Tae had been waiting in his command chair for this moment for 5 long years. The bridge of the Silent Dawn was completely dark except for the soft glow of instrument panels. Sir, we're receiving the activation signal, reported his communications officer. Nam Tae felt his heart begin to race. After decades of secrecy, the moment had finally arrived. Confirm the code sequence. Code confirmed, sir. All 300 ships are receiving the signal. Around them in the darkness, invisible ships began to wake up. Their crews had been living in the shadows of the solar system for years, waiting for this day. Now they moved with practiced efficiency, bringing their vessels to full readiness. "Bring us to combat status," Namte ordered. "And send word to the fleet Operation Nightfall is active." The Silent Dawn was not like other human ships. Its hull was perfectly black, absorbing all light that touched it. Special coatings made it invisible to radar and heat sensors. When its stealth systems were active, the ship looked like a hole cut out of space itself. "Sir, all ships report ready," came the report from the communication station. "Commander Obin requests permission to begin the approach." Namte nodded. Commander Obin led the first squadron, the fastest ships in the secret fleet. They would be the first to reveal themselves to the aliens. Permission granted. All ships begin final approach. Maintain stealth protocols until further orders. 300 ghost ships began their journey toward Earth. They moved without sound through the vacuum of space, their dark hulls reflecting nothing. Even if someone had been looking directly at them, they would have seen only empty space. Back on Earth, the waiting continued. Admiral Lee Hyun stood in the command center, watching the alien ship hover over his homeworld like a sword waiting to fall. Overlord Kethfer had accepted Earth's surrender, but something felt wrong. "Any word from our special project?" Lee Hyun asked Dr. Choi Wan quietly. The old scientist checked a hidden communicator. "They're coming. 6 hours until they reach optimal position." 6 hours. Lee Hyun wondered if Earth would still exist in 6 hours. The alien ship hung in space above them, its weapons pointed down at the planet's major cities. One word from their commander and billions would die. On the bridge of his massive ship, Overlord Kethvar studied reports from his scouts. Something bothered him about Earth's quick surrender. Most species fought back even when facing certain defeat. These humans had given up too easily. Commander Zeth run deep space scans around the planet. Look for anything unusual. Commander Zeth activated the ship's most powerful sensors. They swept through the solar system, looking for hidden weapons or fleeing ships. Nothing detected, Overlord. The system appears clear, but the sensors couldn't detect what they didn't know to look for. Human stealth technology worked on completely different principles than Veilthon science. The ghost ships moved closer, invisible to all detection. Engineer Yoon Ji floated in the zero-gravity engineering section of her ship, the Dark Thunder. She had designed the quantum engines that powered the secret fleet. The engines could push a ship to incredible speeds without creating the energy signature that normal drives produced. "Ma'am, we're approaching the inner system," reported her captain. Yoonji smiled. Her engines had worked perfectly for years, but this would be their first real test. "Increase to combat speed. Let's show these aliens what human engineering can do." The Dark Thunder and her sister ships accelerated toward Earth. Their quantum drives bent space around them, allowing them to travel faster than should have been possible, while remaining completely silent. Commander Obin watched the tactical display on his flagship's bridge. His squadron of 40 ships was spreading out to surround the alien vessel. Each ship was tiny compared to the enemy's massive battleship, but they carried weapons designed specifically to fight this kind of battle. "All ships, prepare kinetic accelerators," Obin ordered. "We'll hit them with everything we have in the first strike." The kinetic accelerators were Yoonji's second masterpiece. Instead of energy weapons that could be blocked by shields, they fired solid projectiles at nearly the speed of light. No known armor could stop them, and no shield could deflect them. "Sir, we're receiving a message from Fleet Command," reported the communications officer. "Admiral Lee Hun sends his regards and asks us to give them hell." Commander Obin allowed himself a small smile. "Tell the Admiral we'll do our best." The alien ship continued its slow patrol above Earth, unaware that death was approaching from all directions. Overlord Kethavar had grown bored with watching the primitive planet below. The humans had surrendered without a fight. Soon he would land his troops and begin the occupation. "Overlord, we're ready to begin landing operations," reported Commander Zeth. "Excellent. Deploy the first wave. 10,000 shock troops should be enough to secure the major population centers." Transport ships began launching from the massive battleship. They were heading for Earth's surface when the impossible happened. Space itself seemed to tear open. One moment there was empty darkness, and the next moment 40 black ships appeared as if stepping out of another dimension. They had been there all along, hidden by technology the Valthons had never imagined possible. "What? How did they?" Overlord Keithvar stared at the tactical display in shock. 40 ships had appeared from nowhere, surrounding his vessel. Commander Obin's voice echoed across all communication frequencies. Unknown vessels, you are in human space without permission. You have threatened our homeworld and our people. You have one chance to withdraw. Leave now or be destroyed. Overlord Kethavar's shock turned to rage. Impossible. We scanned this system completely. There were no ships. Sir, they're not showing up on our sensors even now, reported the Veilthon sensor officer. Even though we can see them, our instruments say there's nothing there. More ships began to appear. First dozens, then hundreds. Each one materialized from empty space like ghosts becoming solid. Soon 300 human warships surrounded the single alien battleship. Captain Namte opened a direct channel to the alien commander. Overlord Kethavar, my name is Captain Namte of the Earth Defense Force. You demanded our surrender. We have a counteroffer. The bridge of the alien ship fell silent. No one moved or spoke as they stared at the impossible sight on their screens. You will withdraw from our solar system immediately, Namte continued. You will return to your empire and tell them that Earth is not available for conquest. If you refuse, we will demonstrate why that would be a mistake. Overlord Kethavar found his voice. This is a trick. An illusion. Your primitive technology cannot create ships from nothing. You're right, Namte replied calmly. We didn't create ships from nothing. We created them from something very real. 30 years of preparation, the greatest secret in human history, and the determination to never bow to bullies. One of the human ships moved closer to the alien vessel. It was sleek and deadly looking, with weapons that seemed to shimmer in the starlight. This is Captain Bay Min of the flagship Defiant Shadow, came a new voice. Overlord Kethavar, you have 1 hour to begin your withdrawal. If you're still here after that time, we will assume you have chosen war. The alien commander's pride warred with his shock. His empire had never faced resistance like this. Every species they had encountered had either surrendered immediately or been easily destroyed. These humans were different, how? He demanded. How did you hide an entire fleet? Engineer Yunji answered from her ship. With patience, planning, and the understanding that sometimes the best defense is a perfect offense. We've been building this fleet since before you knew Earth existed. We've been waiting for someone exactly like you. Dr. Choi Wan's voice joined the conversation from Earth's surface. The project was called Nightfall for a reason, Overlord. We prepared for the night when Earth's enemies would come. That night has arrived and we're ready for it. The transport ships that had been heading for Earth's surface stopped and turned back toward the mothership. The alien troops that had been preparing for an easy occupation now found themselves facing an impossible situation. Sir, what are your orders? Commander Zeth asked quietly. Overlord Kethavar stared at the tactical display. 300 ships against one. But his ship was much larger than theirs. His weapons were powerful. His shields were strong. We are the Veilthon Empire, he said slowly. We do not retreat from primitives. Commander Obin intercepted the transmission and shared it with the human fleet. Did you hear that? He asked his fellow captains. They think we're still primitives. I think it's time for a demonstration. One of the human ships, barely a tenth the size of the alien battleship, moved into position. Its weapons powered up with a sound like rolling thunder. Fire, commanded Captain Li Dong of the Shadow Strike. A single kinetic projectile launched from the human ship. It was just a piece of metal, but it was moving at 90% of the speed of light. The alien shields flared as the projectile struck them. The shields held, but barely. Warning alarms screamed throughout the Veilthon battleship. Impossible, shouted the alien weapons officer. That projectile should have been deflected easily. Sir, shield strength is down to 60% from a single hit, reported the defense. The final battle began at dawn on Earth. Though in space there was no dawn or dusk, only the cold light of distant stars and the fire of weapons that could destroy worlds. Emperor Zalthek himself commanded the Veilthon forces from his flagship. The Eternal Dominion. It was the largest warship ever built, stretching 30 kilometers from bow to stern. The Emperor had come personally to oversee humanity's destruction, bringing with him the combined might of 40 conquered worlds. Begin the attack, he commanded from his crystal throne. Show these primitives the true power of the Veilthon Empire. 5,000 ships moved toward Earth in perfect formation. They came from every direction, surrounding the solar system like a closing fist. Each ship carried enough firepower to level mountains. Together they could crack planets. Admiral Ryu Dong watched the enemy fleet approach from his command center beneath Pluto. The human fleet was hidden in the asteroid belt, their stealth systems making them invisible against the backdrop of tumbling rocks and ice. It was humanity's last trick, and it had to work. "All ships maintain radio silence," he ordered. "Wait for my signal." Captain Nam Te floated in the zero-gravity bridge of his ship, watching the enemy fleet spread out across his sensors. The aliens were confident, moving slowly and deliberately. They expected no resistance beyond what remained of Earth's conventional forces. They had no idea that 300 ghost ships waited in the darkness. "Sir, the enemy vanguard is passing through the outer asteroid belt," reported his tactical officer. Nam Te smiled grimly. "Let them come closer. We want all of them inside the belt before we spring our trap." On Earth, billions of people watched the sky and waited. Some had fled to underground shelters. Others stood in the streets, refusing to hide from their fate. Everyone knew this was the end. Either the end of the invasion or the end of everything they had ever known. Dr. Choi Wan sat in her laboratory with the cascade bomb controls before her. The quantum devices hidden in Earth's moon were fully armed and ready. One signal from her would turn the entire solar system into an expanding cloud of radioactive gas. "Not yet," she whispered to herself. "Give them a chance." The first phase of the alien attack began when Emperor Zalthek's fleet reached the inner solar system. War Commander Theclon led the assault force, 1,000 ships heading straight for Earth. Their mission was simple: destroy every human city, every human outpost, every trace that humanity had ever existed. "Target the major population centers," Theclon ordered. "We'll start with their capital and work our way outward." The alien ships powered up their planetary bombardment weapons. Beams of coherent energy lanced down toward Earth's surface, turning entire city blocks into glowing craters. The bombardment was systematic and merciless, exactly what Emperor Zalthek had ordered. But the humans had prepared for this too. General Kim Hae activated Earth's hidden defense grid. Massive shield generators rose from underground bunkers around every major city. The alien bombardment struck the shields and dissipated harmlessly, creating light shows in the sky but causing no damage. "Impossible," shouted War Commander Theclon. "Their primitive technology cannot stop our weapons." Emperor Zalthek leaned forward on his crystal throne. "What is the delay?" "Sir, the humans have some kind of planetary defense system. Our bombardment is being blocked." The Emperor's eyes blazed with fury. For centuries, no species had been able to resist Veilthon weapons. These humans were proving more troublesome than entire star systems. "Deploy ground assault troops," he commanded. "If we can't burn them from orbit, we'll conquer them on the surface." Transport ships began launching from the alien fleet. Hundreds of them, each carrying thousands of Veilthon shock troops. They would land outside Earth cities and fight their way through the human defenses. Admiral Ryu Dong watched the transports launch and knew this was the moment. "All ships, begin attack pattern Omega. Target the command vessels first." The space around the asteroid belt suddenly filled with light as 300 human ships dropped their stealth and opened fire simultaneously. The aliens had been expecting an attack from Earth's direction. They had never imagined that an entire fleet was hiding behind them. Captain Bei Min led the assault on Emperor Zaltek's flagship. His ship, the Defiant Shadow, raced toward the massive alien vessel at impossible speed, dodging return fire with movements no ordinary ship could make. "All weapons, target their shield generators," he ordered. "We're going inside that ship whether they like it or not." The human fleet had trained for this specific mission. Instead of trying to destroy the enemy flagship, they were going to board it. They were going to capture Emperor Zalthek himself and use him to stop the war. Kinetic projectiles slammed into the Eternal Dominion's hull at near-light speed. The ship's shields flared and sparked under the incredible assault. Section after section of the massive vessel went dark as power systems overloaded. "Sir, we're being boarded," screamed the alien communications officer. "Human ships are docking with our hull." Emperor Zalthek couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Boarding? That's impossible. No ship can get through our defenses." But human ships were getting through. Small, fast vessels covered by larger ships providing cover fire. They attached themselves to the alien flagship like parasites and began cutting through the hull. Captain Nam Te led the first boarding party. He and 50 Marines cut their way into the alien ship wearing armor that made them as invisible as their vessels. The Veilthon defenders couldn't see them coming until it was too late. "Remember the mission," Nam Te told his troops over their private communication channel. "We need the Emperor alive. Everyone else is expendable." The fighting inside the alien flagship was brutal. Valthan soldiers were larger and stronger than humans, but they had never faced enemies who could appear from nowhere and disappear just as quickly. The human stealth technology worked just as well for individual soldiers as it did for ships. Meanwhile, the space battle raged around them. The human fleet was outnumbered 20-1, but they had planned their attack perfectly. By focusing on the enemy command ships, they had thrown the entire alien fleet into confusion. Commander O'Bin's ship dueled with 3 enemy battleships at once, using its speed and maneuverability to stay ahead of their weapons. "This is insane," he called out over the fleet communication channel. "We're actually winning." But the victory was costing them everything. Human ships were being destroyed faster than they could count. For every enemy vessel they disabled, 2 more moved in to take its place. Captain Song A's intelligence ship had been monitoring alien communications throughout the battle. Now she detected something that changed everything. "Admiral, I'm picking up rebellion signals from across the galaxy. Dozens of conquered species are uprising against the Velthons." The news spread through the human fleet like wildfire. Their desperate attack had done more than just threaten one emperor. It had inspired every enslaved species in the galaxy to fight for freedom. Inside the alien flagship, Captain Namte finally reached the Emperor's throne room. The massive chamber was filled with crystal pillars and floating holographic displays. At the center sat Emperor Zalthek himself, a creature of terrible beauty and absolute power. "So you are the humans," the Emperor said calmly. "You are smaller than I expected." "And you're uglier than I expected," Namte replied, raising his weapon. "But that doesn't matter. You're coming with us." The Emperor laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "You think capturing me will end this war? The Empire is eternal. It will survive my death." "Maybe," Namte admitted, "but it won't survive what's happening right now." He activated a holographic display showing the galactic situation. Red indicators marked rebellion after rebellion as conquered species rose up against their oppressors. The Valthon Empire wasn't just fighting humans anymore, it was fighting half the galaxy. "Your empire is collapsing," Namte continued. "The only question is whether you want to go down with it or help us build something better." Emperor Zaltek stared at the display, watching centuries of conquest crumble in real time. The humans had done more than resist his forces. They had shown every enslaved species that resistance was possible. "What do you want?" he asked quietly. "A new galactic order," Namte replied. "One based on cooperation instead of conquest. Freedom instead of slavery, and you're going to help us build it." The space battle was ending as Valthon ships began to surrender or retreat. Without their emperor's commands, the rigid military hierarchy collapsed into chaos. Ship captains who had never made independent decisions suddenly found themselves responsible for vessels they didn't know how to command. Admiral Ryu Dong opened a channel to all forces, human and alien alike. "This is Admiral Ryu Dong of the Earth Defense Force. Emperor Zalthek is in our custody. Any Valthon commander who wishes to negotiate a ceasefire should contact us immediately." Dr. Choi Wan sat back in her chair and moved her hand away from the Cascade bomb controls. The weapons would not be needed after all. Humanity had found a third option between surrender and mutual annihilation. 3 months later, Ambassador Lim Da sat in the newly constructed Freedom Station, orbiting Earth's moon. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the Great Assembly Hall, working together to write the charter for the Free Worlds Alliance. Fleet Admiral Ryu Dong stood in the hidden command center beneath Pluto's frozen surface, watching the tactical display with growing dread. Red dots filled the screen, each one representing an enemy ship heading toward Earth. The numbers kept climbing as more Valthon vessels dropped out of faster than light travel at the edge of the solar system. "Final count, sir," reported Captain Song A, his intelligence officer. 2,347 enemy vessels. They'll reach Earth in 6 hours. Ryu Dong had commanded Earth's secret fleet for 15 years. He was a careful man who had planned for every possible situation. But he had never planned for this. Fighting one battleship was one thing. Fighting an entire galactic empire was madness. "What's the status of our fleet?" he asked. 281 ships still operational. 19 were lost in the first battle. "We have enough ammunition and supplies for maybe 3 major engagements." The mathematics were simple and terrifying. Even if every human ship destroyed 8 enemy vessels before being destroyed itself, they would still lose. The Velthon Empire had sent enough ships to conquer 100 worlds. Dr. Han Sol hurried into the command center, her arms full of data tablets. She was the team's xenobiologist, an expert on alien psychology who had spent years studying intercepted Velthon communications. "Admiral, I've been analyzing their fleet deployment patterns," she said breathlessly. "I think I understand what they're planning." "Tell me," Ryu Dong replied. Han Sol activated a holographic display that showed the approaching enemy fleet. "Look at their formation. They're not just planning to defeat us. They want to make an example of us. This isn't conquest anymore. This is extermination." The alien ships were arranged in a perfect sphere around the solar system. When they attacked, they would come from all directions at once, making escape impossible. No human ship would survive. No human world would be spared. "They're afraid of us now," Han Sol continued. "Our deception worked too well. We've shown them that humans can be more dangerous than they imagined. They can't let that knowledge spread to other species in their empire." Captain Song A's intelligence network had been monitoring Velthon military communications for months. "She's right, sir. I'm picking up transmissions between their ships. They're calling this the final solution to the human problem. They want to wipe us out completely." Admiral Ryu Dong felt the weight of command crushing down on him. The secret fleet had been built to defend Earth, not to fight a war of extinction. But sometimes commanders had to make choices between bad options and worse ones. "Send word to all ship captains," he ordered. "Emergency meeting in 1 hour. We need new strategies." On Earth's surface, General Kim Hae was preparing the planet's ground defenses for invasion. He had served in the Outer Rim Wars and knew how to fight against impossible odds. But this was different. This was his homeworld. "Sir, we're receiving civilian evacuation reports," said his aide. "The major cities are in panic. People are demanding to know what's happening." Kim Hae looked out the window of his command bunker at the city above. Millions of people were going about their daily lives unaware that death was approaching from the stars. How could he tell them that their government had been lying to them for 30 years? How could he explain that Earth's surrender had actually been a declaration of war? "Keep the evacuation plans ready," he said finally. "But don't implement them yet. If we start moving people now, it will cause more panic than the invasion itself." Dr. Choi Wan arrived at the command bunker carrying a small metal briefcase. She looked older than she had just days before, aged by the weight of decisions that had seemed so wise at the time. "General, we need to talk about the final option," she said quietly. Kim Hae knew what she meant. Project Nightfall had included more than just the secret fleet. Hidden deep in Earth's moon was something even more dangerous than 300 warships. "The Cascade bombs?" he asked. Choi Wan nodded. 12 quantum cascade devices, each one capable of destabilizing an entire star system. If we can't win this war conventionally, we can make sure our enemies don't win either. That would destroy Earth too. Better than letting the Valthons turn our world into an example for other species. At least this way our death would mean something. Kim Hae stared at the briefcase in her hands. Inside were the activation codes for weapons that could end everything. Not just the war, but human civilization itself. Meanwhile, the Valthon fleet continued its approach. On the command ship of the Second Fleet, War Commander Theclon reviewed the tactical data from the first battle. He was a veteran of 40 conquered worlds, but the human resistance had surprised him. How did they hide an entire fleet? He demanded of his intelligence officers. "Unknown, sir. Their stealth technology operates on principles we don't understand. Our sensors still can't detect them reliably." Theclon studied the recordings of the battle. The human ships moved with impossible coordination, as if they were parts of a single organism. Their weapons ignored Valthon shields. Their tactics were unlike anything in the Empire's military database. "These aren't primitives," he realized. "They've been preparing for this war longer than we've known they existed." His aide handed him a message from the Empire's capital world. "New orders from the High Command, sir. The humans are to be completely eliminated. No prisoners. No survivors. The Emperor wants this species erased from galactic history." Theclon had never liked genocide, but he followed orders. The human deception had embarrassed the Empire in front of dozens of subject species. If word spread that primitives could successfully resist Valthon conquest, it might inspire rebellions across the galaxy. "Prepare all ships for total warfare," he ordered. "We'll sterilize every human world we can find." Back in the Pluto Command Center, the emergency meeting of ship captains was underway. The holographic display showed faces of men and women who had spent years preparing for this moment. Now they faced a situation no amount of preparation could solve. Captain Nam Te spoke first. Our hit-and-run tactics worked against one ship, but they won't work against 2,000. We need a new approach. Commander Obin's image flickered on the display. His ship was still being repaired from the first battle. What about fighting a delaying action? Make them pay for every light minute of space they take? To what end? Asked Captain Baymin. We can delay them, but we can't stop them. Eventually they'll reach Earth, and then it's over. Engineer Yoon-ji had been silent during most of the discussion, but now she cleared her throat. There is one possibility. It's dangerous and it might not work, but it's better than waiting to die. Admiral Ryu Dong leaned forward. What are you thinking? We don't fight their fleet directly. Instead, we go after their command structure. Cut off the head and the body dies. You mean assassinate their commander? Not assassinate, capture. Take their command ship intact along with whoever's giving the orders. Without central coordination, a fleet that size becomes a liability instead of an advantage. Captain Song Ai studied the intelligence data. It could work. Their command protocols are very rigid. If we can take out their war commander, the individual ship captains might not be able to adapt quickly enough. It's suicide, Commander Oh-bin protested. Getting close to their command ship means fighting through hundreds of escorts. Everything we do now is suicide, Admiral Ryu Dong replied. The question is whether we want to die accomplishing nothing or die giving our people a chance. The debate continued for another hour, but everyone knew the decision was already made. Earth's secret fleet would attempt the most desperate gamble in military history. They would try to capture an enemy commander in the middle of the largest space battle humanity had ever fought. As the meeting ended, Admiral Ryu Dong opened a private channel to Dr. Choi Wan on Earth. How long until the Cascade devices are ready? They're ready now, she replied. I just need authorization codes from you and General Kim Hae. If our attack fails, you'll have them. I won't let Earth become a Valthon trophy. The next few hours passed quickly. The human fleet prepared for what would likely be their final battle. Ships were repaired where possible. Weapons were loaded with the last of their special ammunition. Crews said goodbye to families they would probably never see again. Captain John Ho recorded a message for his daughter on Earth. If you're hearing this, it means we didn't make it back. But remember that we died so you could live free. Never let anyone tell you that humans are weak or primitive. Today we proved that we're the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Similar messages were recorded throughout the fleet. 300 ships carrying 30,000 people prepared to fight an empire. They were outnumbered 8-1, outgunned 100-1, and facing an enemy that wanted to erase them from existence. But they were human. And humans had a long tradition of doing impossible things when their survival was at stake. Admiral Ryu Dong looked at the tactical display one last time before the battle began. The red dots representing enemy ships filled the screen like blood drops against the darkness of space. Soon those dots would be close enough to begin firing. All ships prepare for combat, he ordered. This is the moment we've trained for. Show them what 30 years of human ingenuity can accomplish. The hour expired at exactly 1400 hours, Earth Standard Time. Lieutenant Kang Soo, communications officer aboard the flagship Defiant Shadow, watched the countdown reach 0 on her display. She looked to Captain Baymin for orders. Send the message, Captain Baymin said quietly. Kang Soo activated the fleet-wide communication system. Her voice carried to all 300 human ships and to every Valthon vessel in the solar system. Attention Valthon Empire forces. Your time limit has expired. You have chosen war. We accept your choice. The words had barely finished when the space around Earth erupted into violence. Overlord Kethavar had spent the hour preparing for battle. His massive ship's weapons were fully charged, his shields at maximum power. He commanded the most feared battleship in the Valthon fleet, armed with enough firepower to level continents. Target the largest human ships, he ordered. We'll destroy their command vessels first. The alien battleship's main guns fired. Beams of superheated plasma lanced out toward the human fleet. Each beam carried enough energy to vaporize a city. But the human ships moved like nothing the Valthons had ever seen. They didn't dodge the plasma beams. They seemed to dance around them. The alien weapons struck empty space where human ships had been just moments before. How are they moving so fast? demanded Commander Zeth. Engineer Yoonji's quantum engines were performing exactly as designed. The human ships accelerated and changed direction without the delays that normal engines created. They could be in one place and then somewhere completely different in the blink of an eye. Captain Namte smiled grimly as his ship, the Silent Dawn, avoided 3 plasma beams in quick succession. All ships begin attack pattern Delta. Show them what 30 years of practice can do. The human fleet moved like a school of fish, each ship perfectly coordinated with the others. They had drilled these maneuvers countless times in the darkness beyond Pluto. Now their training paid off. Commander Obin led the first attack wave. His squadron of fast ships darted in close to the alien battleship, their kinetic accelerators charging. First squadron, target their weapon arrays. Let's even the odds. 40 ships fired simultaneously. Solid projectiles moving at nearly light speed slammed into the alien vessel's hull. The Velthon shields flared and sparked under the incredible impact. Several of the battleship's weapon ports exploded in brilliant flashes. Shield strength down to 30%, reported the alien defense officer. We're taking heavy damage to forward weapons. Overlord Kethvar couldn't believe what he was seeing. These primitive ships were actually hurting his vessel. Launch all fighters! Deploy the escort ships. Hundreds of small Velthon fighters poured out of the battleship's launch bays. They were followed by a dozen escort ships, each one larger than the biggest human vessel. The aliens finally had numbers on their side, but the humans had prepared for this too. Pilot John Ho sat in the cockpit of his fighter aboard the carrier ship Stormbringer. He had been waiting for this moment his entire career. Red Squadron, launch when ready. Let's give our guests a proper welcome. Human fighters launched from hidden bays on several ships. They were smaller than the alien fighters, but infinitely more maneuverable. Each one carried weapons that the Velthons had never encountered. What are those? Asked an alien pilot as strange projectiles streaked past his ship. He got his answer a moment later. The projectiles were quantum phase torpedoes, designed by the same human engineers who had created the stealth systems. The torpedoes passed right through the alien fighters' shields as if they weren't there, then exploded inside the ship's hull. The alien fighter vanished in a ball of flame. Impossible, screamed another Velthon pilot. Their weapons are ignoring our shields. John Ho's voice crackled over the communication system. That's the idea. We've had 30 years to study your technology from captured signals. We know exactly how your shields work, which means we know exactly how to get around them. The space battle became a nightmare for the Velthons. Their fighters were being destroyed faster than they could launch them. Their escort ships found themselves outmaneuvered and outgunned by smaller human vessels that seemed to appear from nowhere, strike hard, and vanish back into the darkness. Overlord Kethvar watched his forces being picked apart and felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Fear. Send a distress signal to the Second Fleet. Tell them we need immediate reinforcements. Captain Bei Min intercepted the transmission from his flagship. They're calling for help. That means we're winning. But Admiral Lee Hyun, monitoring the battle from Earth, knew better. If reinforcements come, we'll be outnumbered again. We need to end this quickly. Dr. Choi Wan had been watching the tactical displays with growing concern. The fleet is performing perfectly, but we can't fight the entire Velthon Empire. This was supposed to convince them to leave us alone, not start a galactic war. The battle raged for 3 hours. Human ships darted in and out of weapons range, striking hard and fast before disappearing into the darkness. The alien battleship's shields flickered and sparked under constant bombardment. Several sections of its hull were now open to space, but the humans were taking losses too. 7 ships had been destroyed by lucky shots from the aliens' massive guns. 12 more were damaged and pulling back for repairs. The secret fleet was powerful, but it wasn't invincible. Commander Obin's ship shuddered as a plasma beam grazed its hull. Damage report. Hull breach on deck 4. Shield generators offline. We're leaking air. Obin made a quick decision. Pull back to repair position. Second Squadron, take over the assault. Captain Song A led the Second Squadron in a coordinated attack on the alien battleship's engine section. Her ships fired in perfect synchronization, their kinetic projectiles hitting the same spot on the enemy's hull over and over again. The alien ship's mighty armor finally gave way. A series of explosions rippled along its stern as the engine compartment was breached. The massive vessel began to list to one side, its power failing. Sir, main engines are offline, reported the Velthon engineering officer. We're losing life support in 6 sections. Overlord Kethavar realized his ship was dying, but his pride wouldn't let him surrender to primitives. If we're going down, we're taking them with us. Prepare the Nova Cannon. The Nova Cannon was the battleship's most powerful weapon. It could destroy an entire planet if fired at close range. Using it in a space battle was almost suicide. But Kethavar no longer cared. Captain Namte's sensors detected the massive energy buildup. All ships, emergency retreat. They're charging a planet-killer weapon. The human fleet scattered in all directions as the alien ship's ultimate weapon powered up. Energy readings climbed to incredible levels. The space around the battleship began to glow with deadly radiation. But Engineer Yunji had one more surprise ready. Captain Bei Min, I'm transmitting new targeting data to all ships. We can stop their super weapon. But it has to be a coordinated strike. Every ship in the human fleet received the same target information. A single point deep inside the alien battleship where all its power systems came together. If they could hit that spot with enough force at exactly the same time, they could cause a feedback that would destroy the ship from within. This is crazy, muttered Commander Obin as he brought his damaged ship back into the fight. We'll have to get close enough to touch that thing. Captain Bei Min's voice carried across the fleet communication system. All ships, this is it. One chance to end this. Follow my lead and hit the target on my mark. 300 human ships turned toward the dying alien battleship. Its Nova cannon was almost ready to fire. In 30 seconds, it would release enough energy to sterilize half of Earth's surface. The human fleet accelerated toward certain death. Their ships were tiny compared to the massive alien vessel, but they flew straight at it without hesitation. Every human pilot knew they might not survive the next few minutes, but they also knew their families were watching from the planet below. 20 seconds to Nova cannon firing, reported Lieutenant Kang Su. All ships. Maximum acceleration, ordered Captain Bei Min. We're not running away anymore. The black ships of Earth's secret fleet raced toward the alien battleship like arrows shot from a giant bow. Their hulls glowed with heat from the radiation pouring out of the enemy's charging weapon. Several ships began to suffer system failures from the energy overload. 10 seconds to firing, Kang Su called out. Target acquired, reported the weapons officer on every human ship. 5 seconds. Captain Bei Min watched the alien ship grow larger on his view screen. He could see individual details on its hull now. Weapon ports, sensor arrays, the massive opening where the Nova cannon was preparing to fire. Fire everything, he ordered. 300 ships fired at the same instant. Kinetic projectiles, energy beams, quantum torpedoes, and every other weapon in the human arsenal converged on a single point deep inside the alien battleship. The concentrated firepower punched through armor, through bulkheads, through defensive systems, and struck the ship's main power core. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the alien battleship began to glow from within. The light grew brighter and brighter until it was impossible to look directly at the ship. Overlord Kethavar had just enough time to realize what was happening before his ship tore itself apart.